right back to work, and almost feeling like bad for the guys. I mean, I didn't spend but maybe 10 minutes in that tent the whole weekend, but I think they all knew, they're all understanding um, and knew what we were trying to do and what we were trying to achieve at that race. And, obviously it didn't go the way we had all hoped, but it wasn't from a lack of trying. I mean, he was running in the top three before we had a technical issue with the engine that took us out of the race. But, yeah, I mean, great experience. I mean, that's, the then and now, but I mean, I think, what's happened in the past with the brand and everything else is really why, so many people are infatuated with the brand and want to see, keep living on in the racing world and in the karting world here in North America.
Yeah, I mean, and it's, a couple of the guys in the group have called, it's a culture. And I found myself this week knowing you and I were going to have this conversation. Oh, real quickly, for those of you that are listening that want to ask Gary a question, if you Google Spreaker, Spreaker, Norcal Karters, we should pop right up. You could also go to norcalkarting.com or our Facebook page, and I have everything popped up. So if you want to ask Gary a question while we have him on, again, Spreaker, Norcal Karters on Facebook, or norcalkarters.com, and you can, click on the link and chat live with us. Sorry, I had to get that in there because there's a couple of people asking to chat earlier today. But I kind of found myself really regretting that I didn't take more time to try to get to know the TrackMagic factory. When I started karting, I lived in Hayward. But then I drove to Sacramento to buy my TrackMagic cart. I kind of thought maybe the factory was just not approachable because it's a factory, etc. So I never really met anybody down there. And that would have been in, let's see, 95? It would have been 95 when I bought my first cart. And my first new cart was a TrackMagic. And as I get to know more and more of these guys, I raced with Joe Fong in the 80 class and interviewed Greg Yanazzo at one of the TrackMagic barbecues. And I'm getting to know these guys. It's like, man, I wish I took that initiative to just drive across the bay and just go be nosy around TrackMagic. And maybe my early karting days would have been a little bit different. What was it like out there at the 100 Points factory?
Well, I mean, I guess we should probably start at the very beginning in the sense of when I was racing with Cosmic at the time, and I think this was the end of 2004.
Okay.
3, 4, I guess I can't remember now. And I went to Chilliwack, and my dad was still involved in my racing, being my mechanic and helping me, facilitate the bills and whatnot. And we were at each other's throats like we always were that year. Me thinking I knew everything, at 17 years old or whatever I was, 17, 18 years old, and not knowing anything. But he had told me kind of before the final, because we were at each other's throats, and I'm done with this. I don't want to do this anymore. You're on your own after this. This is your last race, at least with me. So, okay, and racing didn't go well. I was running third, never been on the podium at a Stars event. Ronnie White was behind me, and we all know the stories with me and Ron. I mean, anytime we were around each other, we seemed to crash into each other. We crashed into each other, and my dad, confirmed, yeah, you're an idiot. You don't need to be racing, at least not with me paying for it. So I literally, at that point, I didn't know if I was going to race or if I wanted to race anymore. And I remember actually vividly thinking, okay, I had finished high school early because I didn't like high school, so I did all my work early just to get out of high school. And I was thinking, okay, am I going to go to, college, or what am I going to do with my life? And I, at that time, I lived in a house that was right next to a highway, and it was kind of around to a corner, and people would always crash into these light poles, or not light poles, power poles, right?
Yeah.
So PG&E would always have to come out, fix the poles, and I'm looking at these guys and thinking, I think I'm going to do that. I started talking to a lineman. He told me, you can make pretty good money if you're with the company for a long time. Now, I was literally on my way to probably going to go, apply for a job at PG&E or find out what kind of education I needed to go work for PG&E when Ryan Fowl called me out of the blue. And I didn't even know who Ryan was. I kind of vaguely knew who he was, through the TrackMagic deal. And at that year, the same year, TrackMagic, I guess, wasn't doing very well. I mean, they had Landon and Kyle there, but, they were struggling. They were kind of like on that. I think George Barros had already left the company and everything. And Ryan called me and said, hey, we'd like to set up a test, and we're looking for a driver. Because at the end of the year, this year, Kyle's not going to race with us anymore, and we needed like a stay-home, in-home factory driver. And I heard this story afterwards that it was Oliver Rowan's dad, Russ Rowan, who was telling Foster, like, hey, you should have two options. You could go get this Ronnie White guy, or this young, or risk it and have this young kid, Gary-Carlton. He's fast. He just needs, someone to kind of just told Foster, like, you need someone to, guide him. He just got no guidance. He's a young kid and just doesn't know where he's going. And so I guess Foster decided he didn't want Ronnie. He wanted the young guy, so he called me, or had Ryan Fowl call me. And I thought, I'm thinking in the back of my mind while Ryan's talking, like, man, TrackMagic hasn't been doing well. They've actually been doing pretty poorly this year. Why would I want to go, do a poor team and everything? That cart's not working very well. But I thought, okay, whatever. I'll just go do the test. And I show up in the test, and this is when I still had that Ranger 1988 Ford Ranger pickup. At this time, it wasn't pink, but it was rusted.
Okay, you got to go into that story after that.
Well, that's way after TrackMagic that we did that, but just this beater truck. That's my first car. Little mini pickup truck, just rust bucket. It looked like a cesspool disease. The thing was just dirty and everything. But I showed up in that, and I did a few. And Kyle Martin was there at the test. So it was Ryan, and that's when I met Foster Vitello for the first time. Was at the test at Dixon. So we showed up. Kyle's burning laps, and then I jumped in Kyle's cart and I drove it. And me being me at that time, I got out of the cart, and Foster, I guess I knew who Foster. I knew Foster was the owner, but I didn't know who Foster was, right? And so he's like, "What do you think?" And I looked at him and, like, to be honest, dude, this thing's a piece of junk. Let's just say, I guess through this narrative, there's going to be a lot of explicit words that I don't say, but I think you can all, decipher where they should be put in. Because at least myself and Fosso had very explicit language, let's say. I said, no, this thing's a piece of junk. And he quickly, quickly looked at me straight in the face, and he says, that's a very easy thing to say, something's a piece of junk. The hard part is can you fix it? And if you can fix it, then you're worth something to me. If you can't fix it, you're worth nothing to me. And I was like, whoa, that's pretty heavy, And I was like, well, I would try this, and this. And I remember Foster looking at Ryan right away. He goes, do it right now. And then he looks at me and goes, we're going to see if you know what you're doing right now. And it was like, oh man, this guy means business. So they did all the changes, and we went out. I drove it. I'm like, yeah, it feels better to me. He goes, now, Kyle, you drive it. And Kyle's like, I think I can't remember if Kyle liked it or didn't like it, but let's just say for the sake of the story, he did, because I remember us leaving the cart like that. And I did a few more runs, and then, that was the end of the test. And I remember Fosso coming over looking at my truck and said, man, this thing's a piece of junk. like, oh, thanks. Like, thanks, dude. I mean, like, and then I had actually my skateboard in the back of it because I was an avid skateboarder at the time. And he looks at it, he's like, and I think there was a few things that he didn't manufacture. And as everyone knows, Costa was, owned the skateboard market. And he's looking, he's like, these wheels are junk. This is junk. You don't even ride this. You should ride this. You should ride that. I'm like, dude, like this guy, I can't do anything right with this guy. So, and he's like, all right, we should go. We need to have a meeting. I want to talk to you alone, away from these guys. Okay. He's like, we'll get something to eat. And he's like, you know any place around here that's good to eat? I'm like, I have no idea. I mean, there's a Popeyes chicken down at the gas station. They're close to 80. He's like, okay, let's go there.
Red beans and rice. Yes.
Yeah. So we ordered Popeyes. And we're sitting there eating it, and then he takes a few bites, and he's like, this is terrible, or this is junk, let's say. I'm like, God, man, this guy, like, he's hard, And, he's like, all right. And he had to really, if anyone knew him, he had this deep, raspy voice. Like, all right, I'm going to have my accountant call you tomorrow. He's going to tell you how much he can pay you a week. You'll work in the factory, when we need you to work, and we'll pay you at a race. And you'll get this X amount a week. I think it was like $250 a week. And he's like, if you want it, you want it. If you don't, you can go.
Yourself?
I think y'all know what he said. Yeah. I was like, oh, all right. And lo and behold, I mean, it was the next day, and I'm sitting there thinking, I'm driving home from Dixon, thinking, like, man, I guess it'd be cool, And, it was the next day, this lady called, I forget her name, and she said, okay, I'm from Foster Vitello's office, and he his terms are the same as what he explained to you yesterday, $250 a week to work part-time in the factory, basically run your whole race team, and we'll pay for all your racing, this, that, and the other thing, and he'd like an answer now. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, okay. And then, in the back of my head, I'm like, what's the worst thing that can happen? I could say yes. It doesn't go well, because this was maybe in September-ish of that year. I'm like, if it doesn't go well, I mean, honestly, if it doesn't go well for him, it doesn't go well for me. You probably won't want me back anyway. So what's the worst that can happen? And, I'll work for to the end of the year, or at least till the end of Super Nationals, and we'll see how it goes. I said, yeah, it sounds good. And I don't know, he must have been right there, like on speakerphone or something, and he grabbed the phone or got on the speaker and was like, and bring that, let's say, stupid seat that you wanted to try, because I wanted to try this seat in the car that I didn't have, a seat that I liked using. And be here, tomorrow, or it was like, let's say it was on Monday or something, I can't remember, let's just say, and be here Wednesday and bring that stupid seat, but we all know what he said.
Yeah.
What
kind of seat was it?
I don't remember. I don't know. But so yeah, then the lady comes back. Okay, this is our address. This, that, and he tried to, don't be late. Don't be late. Okay. So I'm driving down to TrackMagic, and I remember, in this beat up truck. And I remember, I remember it to this day. It's probably one of the most vivid memories I have of my TrackMagic days. Is I'm driving across the Bay Bridge. Now, granted, I've never really been into San Francisco that many times in my life. And I'm looking at the city, as you're driving across the Bay Bridge. I'm like, whoa, this is kind of cool, And then I drive up to Hunters Point. In the factory, and I think it was a Wednesday, and I get there, and the guy I knew, and the guy, I don't think it was 18-ish.
18?
Yeah,
okay.
18-ish. Yeah, 18. And I thought, okay, I'll work Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at the factory, and then I'll go home during the weekend. And so I get there Wednesday, and Ryan Fowle is not there, and I was thinking I was going to stay with him, asked to stay at his house. But I did the whole day there working. Fossil kind of showed me around. I met Diego, who was the office manager at the time, Diego Valverde.
Oh yeah.